This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time for your purpose, your power, your journey to authenticity. I met my guest through podmatch.com, and I'm very grateful to the organization because I probably wouldn't have met Stanley Bronstein unless maybe we happen to have lived in the same city, which I don't think we do. Um, but when I read his bio, something just triggered. And it's like, Stanley, you find a way to transform yourself. And so many of us talk about the fact that we want to change and we look for the miracle of change. In fact, I did that for many years myself. Um, and many of my clients who come to me for life coaching, they want that miracle too. Just tell me where I find the magic wand so I can transform into the person I want. I love that. It is in our head and we have to control it. So take me on your journey because looking at you now, I would never have expected that you could have ever weighed what you have in your bio 367 pounds. That's a big guy.
Yes, I was a big guy. To give you people an example, here's a picture. I
Wow.
was I was 367 with I'm 5'7". I had a 58-inch waist. Now I'm still 5'7". I have a 31-inch waist. The,
On.
the 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 two people in this picture, they have the same DNA, but they are not the same people. I am not the same person I used to be. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
So,
Um,
what
go ahead.
made you, first of all, what took you to the 367? Because so many of
Okay.
us say, well, it just happened. But we all know that's not true. It didn't
Okay.
just.
In my case, it started September 13th, 1967. I was 8 years old. My mother died.
Oh,
And needless to say, that messed with my head. In many ways, I shut down emotionally. I had a lot of anger in me. I did not cry at her funeral. I did not cry for many years. And there I am living with my massively obese father who had no clue how to eat a healthy diet, no clue how to eat properly. All he knew was to work hard and provide for his family and stay out of trouble. That's all he knew, and he did that very well. But we both quite literally ate ourselves into oblivion. And, you know, guys will tell you that they're proud that they weigh the same that they did when they got married. Well, I weigh less than I did when I was 13 years old. And I found pictures to prove it. I personally, I think that's a little sick, but that's the reality of the situation.
absolutely. And
So, yeah, go ahead.
again, most of us claim we don't know how we got there. You obviously have enough
Yes,
know how to be able to go back and say, this is where it started.
but can I tell you something? In my opinion, in many ways, it's irrelevant how or why you got there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what I see, I mean, I've been through therapy. That's one of the things I think about therapy is that I think, look, it's nice that I know the why. It's great. I mean, it's wonderful that I know the why. But all that matters is where am I and what do I need to do and am I going to do it?
Okay.
And if knowing the why helps me figure that out, great. But I sometimes, I mean, I think a lot of times just getting started and getting going and you figure out the why later, um, kind of thing. But that's what got me going in there. And then going through high school, I had friends, but I was always big. Women didn't want to date me. Same thing in college, always big. Women didn't want to date me. My senior year of college, I lost about 75, 80 pounds. Then I went on a road trip with some friends, and there were cookies in the back seat of the car. And the cookies and I had an intimate love affair. And there I was back to where I was. weight came back on plus more. So, went right back to my old habits. And we're going to talk about that as we get a little further here. Then I graduated, became a CPA, an accountant. I was working with one of my older brothers. We had started a real estate company. One day we got in an argument. It was over a legal matter. And he says, "You're not a lawyer." And I said, "No, I'm not." He says, "You ought to go to law school." And I said, "Okay." So, moral of the story there, you can be arguing with someone who's totally full of crap, which he was. You should be listening to what they say because some words of wisdom may accidentally come out of their mouth.
Okay.
And so took him up on the dare. I went to law school. 4 years later, I was a lawyer. Changed my life. So thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Changed my life. So again, my last year in law school, I lost a bunch of weight, this time about 100 pounds. And it didn't all come back on immediately like it did the last time. And it never all came back on. But, over the years, it did slowly start coming back on. But I was small enough to where I could, start dating. Women were interested in me. And, but before that, there's one part of the healing journey I want to discuss real quick.
Sure.
About a little bit after I graduated law school, about 25 years after my mother died, one of her sisters, one of my aunts died. And I went to the funeral. And it's funny how the universe wants to help us sometimes. The universe gave me an opportunity to heal that I needed. I walked into the cemetery. There were two young kids, two young boys, one about 9, one about 6. They were my cousins. I'd never met them before. This was their grandmother who died. The 9-year-old was crying his eyes out. The 6-year-old was standing there by himself, stone cold, not crying, with a dumbfounded look on his face. I said, "That's me." I mean, I literally saw myself. And I said, "I'm going to be damned if I let happen to that kid what happened to me." So, because what happened to me was nobody sent me to counseling. Nobody knew I needed counseling. And to be honest with you, back in 1967, you didn't send kids to counseling.
Right.
And if you went to counseling, it was because you were crazy. So I went up to the kid, introduced myself. I said, "I'm your cousin. We've never met." I said, "I know exactly how you feel right now. Because when I was about your age, my mother died and I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going to happen." And I told him it's okay to cry. And I put my arms around him and I did not let go of him until he cried. And then to make it even better, there was an older Orthodox gentleman there in the cemetery. And he says out loud in front of 20 or 30 people, he says, "What are these kids doing here in this cemetery?" He says, "Kids don't belong in cemeteries. They shouldn't be here." Well, Karen, I snapped. He
Good
hit
for
a hot
you.
button. He hit a hot button. I sat there and I said, "That was their grandmother. If there's anybody who belongs here at this funeral, it's those two kids. And if there's anybody that doesn't belong here, it's you. You can leave right now."
Wow.
He shut up and he did not say another word. And so not only did the universe give me the opportunity to meet young Stanley, to hug young Stanley, to talk to young Stanley, to heal young Stanley, it gave me the opportunity to stand up for him and defend him too at the same time. So that was beautiful. So all the tears that didn't come out of my mother's funeral came out there. So that was very nice. So there I am. I'm a lawyer now and a CPA. I started dating a bunch of women, wound up getting married, still married, and that's relevant to the story in a minute.
Okay.
I'll tell you about this. Okay. So we moved to Arizona from Texas, And I started my own law and accounting office and typical stresses, successful, but, ups, downs, that kind of thing. Started putting the weight back on. Fast forward to 4 months before my 50th birthday, February 1st, 2009. So a little over 17 years ago, I call that day my rebirth day. And whenever I counsel people, I tell them, mark the date that we started because this is going to be your rebirth day. And I want you to celebrate it every year. So, and if you're losing weight, not with cookies. So I woke up and I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing? I didn't like the answer. Would you care to guess what the answer was?
But you thought you'd be 6 feet under.
Yep, dead. And I decided right then and there I didn't want to be dead. So I said, okay, I'm going to make some changes. Now, I told my wife, I'm done. I'm cooked. And to be honest with you, I was not at rock bottom. I hadn't had a heart attack yet, hadn't had a stroke yet, knees hadn't given out yet. That stuff was all coming, but it hadn't happened yet. But I was thoroughly disgusted with myself. Totally. I said, here I am, I'm successful. I have this good career, and what I'm doing with my life is I'm wasting it. This is disgusting. It's sick. It just made me sick to think of it. And I said, this is BS. This is ridiculous. So I told her, I'm getting ready to make some changes. And you might like them, and you might not like them. And to be honest with you, if you don't like them, I don't care. Because I have to make these changes or I'm going to be dead. I told her I'm going on a journey. I'm inviting you to come along with me. And I hope you come along with me. But if you don't want to, there's the door. You can walk out right now. I call that a moment of healthy selfishness. I stood up for myself and I said, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm going to do. And if nobody else likes it, I don't give a damn. I actually have a book on that topic called The Way of Healthy Selfishness. Because, like I'm counseling people that want to lose weight. They can say, I need to go to the gym, but I don't want to go to the gym because people are going to make fun of me. They think I look bad. And I go, who cares what they think? All that matters is what do you think?
Exactly.
It's all that
Exactly.
matters. So, you have to adopt that attitude. So I did. And I said, I'm going to make 4 changes. Or well, I said, what changes? I came up with 4. First one was I quit drinking alcohol. Um, was I an alcoholic? I don't know. But I was drinking scotch every day. I was drinking more than I should. And the alcohol was not serving me, I was serving it.
Okay.
So I believe in symbolism. I took my last bottle of scotch, poured it down the toilet, hit flush. Haven't had a drink in 17 years and don't miss it. Now I want to talk about addiction for a second. I actually found it for me easy to quit drinking. Now that's not to make light of other people who find it difficult, because I know there are people out there who struggle with that, and I'm not making light of that at all. But I think it's because if anything, I was not physically addicted to it. If
Okay.
anything, I was emotionally addicted to it. I wanted it because it made me feel comfortable. It was a crutch. It was my friend. But, but I didn't have to have it. I didn't go through detox. So it actually was easy for me to quit drinking. And then the next thing was 2-liter bottles of soda pop. I was drinking 3 of those a day,
Wow.
but they were diet caffeine free. They tell us those are healthy, right? No,
No.
they're garbage. And that's my opinion, but I'll say it very loudly. They're garbage. So symbolism again. Took my last bottle, poured it down the toilet, flush, gone. Haven't had one in 17 years. Don't miss it. And believe it or not, I actually found it harder to kick the soda pop than I did the scotch.
Oh, I can believe that. A
And I
lot of
think it's
people do
I
that.
think it's because I didn't drink the scotch all day every day, but I did drink the soda pop all day every day. And so, but done, gone. Then I said, I like chicken and turkey, so I'm going to quit eating beef and pork. I'm going to quit eating red meat. And that was quite an accomplishment because my father was a butcher and I grew up in a house with unlimited free meat. And so to kick that, that was an interesting experience. So, you know, done, gone. Then I said, I need to start doing some exercising. And I settled on walking. I made a statement. I said, walking is going to be my exercise of choice. And little did I know how prophetic my words were. And I picked walking because I figured didn't need a lot of special equipment. You could do it almost anywhere, almost any time. And I figured it would beat me up less than any other form of exercise. So I said, I'm going to walk. So I started walking. And in the beginning, I could only walk 2 or 3 blocks because my knees hurt and I was out of breath. I found a gym that was open 24 hours and they had a pool. And I'd go there in the middle of the night when the pool was empty and I would walk laps up and down the pool.
Okay.
Hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I set a goal that I wanted to do a 5 hour pool walk on my 50th birthday. By my 50th birthday, I lost about 50 pounds. I did that 5 hour pool walk. 2 days later, I did a 5.5 hour pool walk. And, I kept going and going and going. Then now I want to backtrack a second. You notice the day I started was February 1st, 2009. Would you care to guess why it was not January 1st?
No.
I had made a New Year's resolution and I blew it,
Oh, okay.
like we all do so many times. So the moral of that story was, so I blew it. I picked it up again later.
I
It's
love it.
not too late. That's the point. If you fall down, it's okay as long as you get back up. When you fail, if you beat yourself upside the head, say I'm worthless, say I'm a failure, I'm no good, that's bad. But
It is.
if you mess up and you sit there and say, okay, I screwed up, made a mistake. Mistakes are proof that I'm trying.
Yes, they are.
And I'm going to pick myself back up. And I'm going to get going again. Then it's okay. So, so over time, I continued to refine my diet, what I ate. I eventually eliminated all meat, became vegetarian. And then later on, I eliminated butter, cheese, and ice cream, became vegan. And since the day I went vegetarian 12.5 years ago, I've been sick one time. And that includes getting exposed to COVID. I got exposed to COVID. My wife caught it in the airport, brought it home. My body threw it off. But I had had the vaccine, and I'm sure that didn't hurt me. But I've seen COVID has impacted people. COVID has killed many people, as you know. Um, and so it's not anything to make light of. But the point is, I have found that proper nutrition is incredibly powerful. What it allows you to do and what you can do. And that one time I was sick, it was 8 years ago. I was sick for 3 days. And I don't think it's because I caught anything. I think it's because all the past excesses I ate and drank were stored in my body fat. And as my body was burning off that fat, those toxins got released into my bloodstream. And I got sick one time along the way because I know I had one time during my whole process, I had a 1 month period where I felt like I was a piñata. Somebody hung me upside down and just beat me with a baseball bat. Everything on my body hurt. Everything was sore. I didn't want to walk. I didn't want to do anything. I felt miserable. And then just all of a sudden I started feeling better and boom, started losing more weight. It was like my body had to throw that stuff off and get it out. But because I've lost the weight so slowly with no drugs, no surgeries, and I exercised along the way, my skin tightened up. I didn't get left with all that excess flab and all that stuff that you see so many people on
Right.
TV ending up with. And so I consider that very fortunate. I didn't plan that along the way, but that's something I've learned. along the way. So things I want to emphasize. This whole thing has been an evolutionary process. The person I am today is not who I was 17 years ago. It's not who I was 16 years ago, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I have evolved along the way. Don't try to do it all at once. All that matters is you get started and you keep going and you do not stop. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into my system, but let's keep moving. So, what did this experience teach me? The experience of losing 220 pounds and keeping it off permanently. The experience of going from a person who can only walk 2 or 3 blocks to a person who now walks 13 to 15 miles every day. I mean, I'll give you an example. If I stay on present pace in June, I will have walked around the earth at the equator 3 times
Wow.
over the last 17 and a half years. And so I do a lot of walking. So why do I do that walking? I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm crazy. It's because the experience has taught me that I am more powerful than I ever imagined. Way more powerful. If you'd have told me 17 years ago I was going to do what I've done, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here I am, and I've done it. And so why do I walk that much? Because I can. I am in year 18 of looking for my limits, and I haven't found them yet. That's how powerful I am. And so that teaches me, that makes me say one other thing, and then makes me start asking some questions. The other thing it tells me is if I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. I am no more special than you are. You are no more special than I am. The truth is, we are all special, each and every one of us. We are special. You are more powerful than you ever imagined. And when you start to believe that, that's when things take off.
Great.
And you start asking yourself questions. And the question I asked myself was, if I'm capable of doing all this, what else is out there waiting for me to do that I haven't done yet that I should be doing? And the answer to that question I came up with was, I'm a systems thinker. I should be turning this into a system that other people can use to change their lives. And it shouldn't be just for weight loss. It should be for anything.
Absolutely.
And so what I've created is essentially, it's an operating system, a human operating system. Think of it as Windows 11, Mac OS, Android for human beings. It's what you put in
Okay.
your brain to create an excellent life for yourself and have an excellent life. So I said, what's the goal of the system? I said, the goal is not perfection. The goal is excellence. So what's the difference? When you're a perfectionist, only being perfect is good enough. The people around you are only good enough when they're perfect. There's just one problem. There are no perfect people.
That's right.
We are all human beings. We're all going to screw up. If you want to take one thing away from this program, this is my gift to you listeners. I am a predictor here. I am predicting that at some time in your life, you're going to screw up and you're going to screw up big time. Big time. Question is, do you beat yourself upside the head? Say I'm worthless, no good, and go back down your rabbit hole? Or do you say, well, screwed up, learn something from it, let's move on, keep going? And that's the key. So I said, okay, so I've got this. Excellence is the key to it. So I came up with something called the way of excellence.
Okay.
It's a nice chart. Everything's color coded. Everything lines up and all this and all that, because I said, instead of starting from being a perfectionist, let's start from being what I call a good enoughist. Good enough is good enough. But the beauty of good enough is that no matter how good you are, you can always be a little better. You can always go a little farther. You can always go a little higher, a little deeper. And that's okay. That's what you work for. That's what excellence is. Constant and never-ending improvement. I'm in year 18 of constant and never-ending improvement, constantly evolving. So I said, so what are the traits of an excellent human being? Over time, I did a lot of thinking and came up with 20. Because see, one of the things that happens is when you do as much walking as I do, you
Your
do a
brain thinks.
lot of thinking, a lot of thinking. And something else is interesting. You meet some very interesting people when you do this walking. And care to guess who the most interesting person you're going to meet is?
Yourself.
That's right. Absolutely. So you start figuring things out. So what's an excellent human being? Okay. Number one, all these things are in order for a specific reason because they build on each other. Number one, the foundation, awareness, telling it like it is. February 1st, 2009, changed my life or I'm going to be dead. You cannot be more aware than that. But there's a second part to that. You have to act on it.
Absolutely.
Now, but it's not just acting on it. You have to permanently act on it because there's something I call the concept of willingness. That's number 16 in my system, but we're going to jump ahead and I'm going to talk about it right here. Unless and until you become permanently willing to permanently do what it takes for the rest of your hopefully very long, hopefully very happy, hopefully very healthy life, you're not going to permanently get what you want. Permanent. That's the key. See, that was not the first time I told myself I needed to lose weight. It was not the first time I told myself, it was not the first time I started taking action on it. But it was the first time I became permanently willing to permanently act on it. That's the key.
Yep.
Okay. So, number two, long-term thinking. Life is a long-term game. The problem is we live in a short-term world. Streaming video, Alexa, Siri, Amazon Prime, Uber Eats, streaming video, everything you want. It's right there instantly. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as we use those tools properly. But the problem is life doesn't work that way. Life is a long-term game. Ask an Italian chef. You're going to make spaghetti sauce. All it is tomatoes, right? Just throw some tomatoes in a pot. 5 minutes later, you have spaghetti sauce. No, that stuff has to simmer on the stove all day and maybe a couple of days, uh, and to come out right. Um, that's the way life is. We need to learn to think in decades, but act daily. See, I'm 66. Not only do I have a 5-year plan, not only do I have a 10-year plan, I have a 20-year plan, I have a 50-year plan, and I have a 100-year plan. Am I going to make it? Don't know. But I have it planned out. I know where I want to go. I know what I want to do with my time. I know who I want to be. I know the things I want to see happen in my life. And that's what I'm going to work toward. So life is a long-term game. Think in decades, act daily. 3, take personal responsibility. It was not my mother's fault that she died when I was 8. It was not my father's fault that he had no clue that I needed counseling. He had no clue how to teach me how to eat properly. He didn't know those things. And it wasn't my fault either. You know why? Because blame is irrelevant.
That's right.
Blame is living in the past. So now, if you're a politician in Washington and you're listening to this, Blame is irrelevant. Stop blaming each other. Start fixing. Thank you. That's my political message.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, blame's irrelevant. Figure out what needs to be done. Start fixing it. That's all that matters. And we kind of touched on that a little bit before when I said the why to me is not as important as what do you need to do in doing it. 4, embracing change instead of fearing it. You know why? Because all the good things we want in life are on the other side of our fear. They really are. When you feel fear, you can either forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. I choose to face everything and rise. That's not always an easy thing to do. I have a book on that on my website. It's called The Way of Fear. Um, all there, talks about that stuff. And by the way, all these books I'm talking about, they're digital, they're free on my website. So
Okay.
people can download them, they can read them, because they're digital, I can give them away for free. Um, so 5, focusing on the possible, positive focus. You know, pay attention to your word choices. You know, engage in positive self-talk. Stop with the negative self-talk. Start using the word can. Stop using the word can't. Start focusing on the positive. Stop focusing on the negative. Start focusing on the good. Stop focusing on the bad. Because there's something that I call the principle of expansion. Whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of. Focus on crap, guess what? Crap's going to get dumped on you. Focus on how bad your life is, guess what? It's going to get worse. That's just the way it is. You know,
Right.
be grateful for what you have, learn from what's happened to you, and move on. So, number 6, perspective. This is a big game changer here. Okay. Everything I've told you, you have to tell it like it is. You have to take personal responsibility. You have to think long term. You have to start embracing fear. Well, guess what? There's only one thing you have to do in life, and that's die. That's it. Everything else is optional. Even paying your taxes is optional. You might go to jail, but you don't have to do it. So dying is the only thing you have to do. So where did I learn this from? Well, 2 years before I started on my journey in 2007, I was writing a book where I drove the whole United States and I was going to interview 50 people with amazing stories to put them into a book together. And I started the journey in Honolulu, Hawaii. I mean, if you're gonna go around the U.S., that's where you want to start in Hawaii,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. So the very first person I talked to in Honolulu said, "Are you going to be talking to Peggy Chun?" And I said, "Who's Peggy Chun? Never heard of her." He said, "Oh, you got to go talk to her." So I said, "Okay." So essentially, the universe was sending me to a woman named Peggy Chun. I've got the number to Peggy Chun's daughter. I called her, told her what I was doing. She said, "Come on over. I'll let you meet my mom." When I got there, her mom was in the terminal stages of Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, completely bedridden, could not speak, could not move, on a ventilator. The only way she could communicate was trained people would hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements so she could spell words. To do a 20-minute interview with her took like 2 hours. When I saw her, the thought that went through my mind was, if I ever get like that, I want to be dead. But guess what?
He was
That,
alive.
that was not Peggy's attitude. Peggy's attitude was, my grandkids are coming over later today. I can see out the window that it's a beautiful sunny day. They're going to take me outside. We're going to paint and we're going to play and we're going to have a great time. She said, you're getting ready to drive around the United States and you're going to interview all these amazing people. Tell me about them. I want to hear their stories. That sounds like so much fun. I wish I could go with you. This woman who was in a state where I would want to be dead had more joy for life than anyone I've ever met in my whole 66 years. So when I had mornings, when I woke up and I don't want to go walking today, I don't feel like it. I said, what would Peggy Chun do if she were here right now? And the answer is Peggy Chun would have gotten her lazy butt out of bed. She'd have gone for a walk. She might not ever come back because she was having such a good time. So every time I didn't feel like doing that, I said, this one's for you, Peggy. And I went out the door and I did it anyway. So it's all in perspective. You don't have to do anything. You get to do everything. When you do that, everything stops becoming an obligation and it starts becoming a privilege. And when it becomes a privilege, it becomes easier and it becomes better. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes. Seven, vision. Dream big, bold dreams. I said I wanted to lose weight and get in shape. Well, guess what? I lost weight and got in shape. What do I do next? That's why I have a 100-year plan. My goal is to change the world. I want to live to see world peace. Not going to happen in the next 5 minutes, is it?
No, probably not, but we all
Probably.
work on it.
Yeah, probably not in the next 10 either. But, I have a book I wrote on that called The Way of Unity, where it talks about how we all get ourselves together. We all learn to think the way I'm recommending and apply it to our lives in a way that works for us. And then we all get together and we all rise up and we make this world a better place. Okay. Number 8, learning to give first. Everybody always wants to know what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. Stop asking that. What did John Kennedy say? Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Same thing. Give first. You want love? Give somebody love. You want to be wealthy? Help somebody else become wealthy. You want success? Help somebody else become successful. That's the way it works. Because if all of us would start giving to each other with no expectation of return, guess what would happen? Eventually, somebody's going to give something to you.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get stuff. And that's how the world works better. Okay. And to me, that's the opposite of the law of attraction. I call it the law of reciprocity. Okay. Number 9, wise use of your time, energy, and resources. How do you use your time, energy, and resources? Me, I've totally changed the way I use mine. I have a treadmill in my house with a computer hooked up to it. I set it to 2 miles an hour and I can walk on the treadmill and I can work while I'm doing that. So I'm exercising, I'm thinking, I'm getting stuff done, all at the same time. Wise use. What I tell everybody is when you want to get started, set aside 15 minutes a day just for yourself. 15 minutes. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're taking care of a sick parent, sick spouse, sick kids, whatever. Somewhere you should be able to find 15 minutes just for yourself. Use it however you want. If you want to pray, pray. If you want to meditate, meditate. You want to just think, think. What I tell people is go to my website. My website has videos on each one of these concepts, and they're there in order. The main page, it just lists them down the list, one after another. The videos are 8 to 12 minutes each. Watch one a day. In less than a month, you'll learn the system. And then you'll be off to the races and you can start applying it to your life and go from there. And now, this system, it does not tell you what to think. It tells you how to think. Teaches you better way to think. Zig Ziglar, he used to call it stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Well, this teaches you positive thinking, good thinking, powerful thinking, so that you can find your purpose, your power, your journey to authenticity.
I love that.
So I'm reading behind you. Okay. So 15 minutes a day. If you do that over the course of a year, that's going to be 91 hours. That's over 2 full work weeks. And if you combine that with 20 minutes a day of walking, that will be over 200 hours. That's a whole month to yourself. What can you do in a month? A lot. Just watch a little bit less TV, a little bit less time on the internet, whatever it is you're doing. Like me, TV. I have a thing, I don't watch it during the day. When I go to bed, I turn it on, I watch it for 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm done. If I have an hour show I want to watch, it takes me 3 days to watch it. and that's fine. But just get it done. Focus on what's important. Okay. 10, taking consistent action. By consistent, I mean action that's consistent with your stated goals. I used to say I wanted to get in shape and then I'd go eat Chinese buffets for lunch. I'd come home, drink a bunch of scotch. I'd sit on my butt, and that was not going to get me in shape. Although I had somebody tell me the other day, it will get you in shape, just not the shape you want to be in.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
so, and when I stopped going to the Chinese buffets, stopped drinking the scotch, stopped drinking the soda pop, started eating better, started walking, guess what? I started losing weight and getting in the shape I wanted to be in. Duh. It's easier than you think. 11, we already touched on this, persistence. Get going, never stop. Never give up, never surrender. Get started, keep going, keep going. If you fall down, get back up. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Me, I've probably fallen down 1,000 times and I've gotten up 1,001. And that last time I got up, baby, I was powerful when I did that. And my role model for this is my totem animal, the snail.
Okay.
They're steady, diligent, persistent, get where they're going no matter how long it takes. This is Stanley the snail. Say hi to the audience. Hello, hello.
Oh, I love it.
He's
Stanley
Stanley.
the snail.
Yes. So that's just keep going. Never stop. Number 12, integrity. Act with integrity, honesty, loyalty, kindness, sincerity, all those things. Trust. Act that way. 13, respect. Okay. Respect for others, and even more importantly, respect for yourself. Okay. There are a lot of people out there right now who are doing things that I don't like. I don't like them at all. But I still show those people respect. And the reason why is because respect is a measure of my character, not theirs. Even if they haven't earned the respect, I treat them respectfully because it's who I am. I'm a person who treats people with respect. But more importantly, learn to respect yourself. See, I used to complain that people didn't show me the level of respect I thought I deserved, all while I was walking around at 367 pounds. I was showing them outwardly on some level that I didn't respect myself enough to take care of myself. So is it any wonder they didn't respect me? Well, as I started losing weight, guess what happened? People started respecting me more. You go figure. So that's just the way it works. Respect yourself. And if you're around people who don't respect you, walk away from them. Just walk away. And unfortunately, sometimes those are family members. You walk away. 14, win-win thinking. In order for me to win, it doesn't mean you have to lose. We live in an abundant world. There is more than enough in this world for everyone, for all of us. The only problem is the resources are not allocated properly. Help others, share with others, you know, stop trying to beat others. And that's why as a lawyer, I've never been a litigator because I don't want to crush the other side. And they teach you as a litigator, you pretty much need to crush the other side. Um, Although I tell a lot of litigators when I counsel them, you don't necessarily have to do that. You know, look for win-win solutions. Let everybody win. Let everybody walk out of this, you know, okay. And you can do that. I call that the law of alternatives. Look for the alternatives. They're always there. You got to find them. Look for them. 15, balance. Creating a balanced life for yourself. First of all, a balanced life is not something you're going to find. It's something you have to intentionally and consciously create for yourself. But as I said earlier, you don't have to do anything. It's something you get to do. It is your privilege to create a balanced life for yourself. So how do you do that? Simple formula. You identify everything that's deficient in your life and increase it. everything that's excessive in your life, and decrease it. That is how you achieve balance. You know, not enough exercise, exercise more. Not enough healthy food, more healthy food. Drinking too much, get rid of it. You know, that's how you bring things into balance. It's now 16, we already sort of covered this willingness. Unless and until you become permanently willing to do what it takes, you're not going to permanently get there. It's that simple. I used to say, what are the three most important words in the English language? You know, they were, I love you. Now I say there, are you willing? Because if you're not willing, nothing else matters. Okay. Now, 17, belief. Believe you can or believe you can't. Either way, you're going to be right. I've already told you, you are more powerful than you ever imagined. Believe it. Start to realize that. Start to feel it. Because when you do that, that's when your power kicks in. And that's when you really take off and you really get to where you want to be. So start believing in yourself. 18, discipline. I don't mean punishment. I mean self-discipline. I mean identifying all your negative habits and eliminating them. Drinking too much, gone. Chinese buffets for lunch, gone. Eating crappy food, gone. Soda pop, gone. Sitting on my butt, gone. And intentionally and consciously replacing those things with newly created positive habits. Walking every day, yes. Eating healthy food every day, yes. Taking time to meditate every day, yes. Things like that, positive habits. You want to know about habits? Just go buy the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book, tells you everything you want to know about habit breaking and habit formation. Good stuff. 19, it's like, you know, I've wanted to write a book about habits, but I said, why should I? It's already there.
Right.
Yeah, you know, don't need to reinvent that wheel. Okay. 19, commitment. This is what makes it easier. When you become 100% committed to a thing, it becomes easier. I'm 100% committed to walking every day. I stopped asking myself years ago, am I going to walk today? I don't ask that question. Because if I ask the question every day, sometimes the answer would be no, I don't feel like it. Instead, I decided years ago that I'm a person who walks every day. I'm going to walk every day. Don't ask the question anymore. Same thing with eating healthy. I don't ask myself, am I going to eat healthy today? I know I am going to eat healthy today because I'm a person who does not allow unhealthy food to enter his mouth. And my definition of what healthy food is has evolved over the years. I'm much stricter than what I used to be. And my health, I've seen the results. So I will stick to what I've done. But example, when you're committed, week before Christmas, a Laura I'm working with had cookies and cupcakes delivered to my house. She obviously didn't know my eating habits. I took them. I said, thank you. I didn't ask myself, am I going to eat these cookies? No. I didn't ask myself, could I eat these cookies? I just said, I'm not going to eat these cookies. And I had a friend who lives down the street who's very skinny, likes that kind of stuff, gave them to her. My wife took one cupcake out first for herself, and everybody was happy. Everybody got what they want. Now, let's backtrack for just 1 second. Could I have eaten a cupcake or a cookie without backsliding? At this point, yes, I think I could have. I'm far enough down this road where I have that much control over what I do. I could eat a cupcake or a cookie and not backslide. I could drink a shot of scotch and not backslide. I could drink a can of soda pop and not backslide. But the reality is I have no business doing any of those things. Those are from my past. That is no longer who I am. And to be quite frank, I've had my lifetime share of those things. And I've had your lifetime share. And I've had 20 other people's lifetime share. Don't need them anymore. And the funny thing is, I can taste them right now just by talking about them. I know what they taste like. See, I tell people that all the time. You want to quit smoking cigarettes? Pull the cigarette out of the pack. Look at it. Don't light it. Imagine you just smoked it. You know what it tastes like. You know what it feels like. You know how it makes you breathe. And then put it back in the pack. You just had that cigarette without smoking it. Same thing with the alcohol. You can look at it, imagine it, not take it. You know, my wife, she goes to a party or something and there's some food or something that I know I'm not going to eat because it's got added sugar or added salt in it or something. I go, let me smell it. And I sit there and I smell it. And I go, I know exactly what that tastes like. And I go, okay. And then I'm done. And I don't have to have it. So there are ways to do these things. Then the last one, integration of mind, body, and spirit. Here's a picture for you. This is a symbol that I've created. 3 parts, mind, body, spirit. Mind in red, body blue, spirit green. See this little stick figure in the middle?
Yep.
That's where you want to be. Equal part to the best you can, equal parts mind, body, spirit. See, when I started on my journey, I was all mind. I spent hours in front of the computer all day thinking and creating, and that was all I did. Didn't get any exercise, ate crappy food, drank too much, neglected my body, all those things. And it was affecting my energy, my spirit. So when I got started on the journey, I started paying attention to my body. I started listening to it, started doing what it was telling me to do. And I got to the point where I was spending so much time on my body, I was neglecting my mind. I didn't want to do my work. I didn't feel like it. So I had to go back and start devoting some energy toward my mind and bring it all into balance. And it's a constant thing. You're always shifting from day to day, week to week, month to month. But that's okay. But that's where you want to be. You want to be where you're the complete package, where you're as balanced as possible. That's the whole system. That's that's how I recommend people live. That's how I recommend you get powerful and you can do practically anything you want to do. You know, but it's like somebody says, well, you'll never be the starting second baseman for the New York Yankees. And I go, you're right, I won't be, but I can counsel the starting second baseman for the New York Yankees on how to be a better second baseman. You know, so it's, you know, it's all in how you look at it, you know, kind of thing. So all that makes sense?
Stanley, I have to tell you that so much of what you have talked about is what I have been thinking and doing for the last 14 years. I was working in corporate America, and due to a tumor in my left ear, I had to have surgery, lost my hearing in the left ear, had to wear hearing aids, and I was the oldest member of my team. And so it was like, oh my God, there's something wrong with you. You wear hearing aids, you're old, whatever. Make a long story short, I lost my job. And I walked out of there wondering, who am I? What's my problem? What's wrong with me? Oh, woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't last very long because I came home and I said to my husband, okay, I've lost my job. I'm depressed. I don't want to stay depressed. I want to do what I've always done. And he said, and what is that? I said, I want to do something with my communications degree and I want to do it now. And he looked at me and he said, okay. Now I was lucky. I had that support system. But I also knew deep down what I've always wanted to do and realized that that organization gave me the way out the door because I would not have walked out because
They did you a favor.
they did me the biggest favor, and I talk about it all the time. But what I have done is I've committed myself each day to be better today than I was yesterday. And that doesn't mean I love it. Beat yesterday. Exactly.
We think very much alike, my friend.
Yes, we do. And, you know, I tell, especially women who are mostly my clients, I tell them Stop looking at your birth certificate and realizing, oh, I was born on XYZ day in XYZ year. Oh my. No, it's not oh my, it's oh boy, now what can I do? Because I can keep doing.
Can we elaborate on that for a second?
Sure.
It, few things gripe me more than when I hear people say, oh, I'm getting old. I'm in the second half of my life. You know, okay, I'm 66. I just had my physical a little over a month ago. I'll put my blood work numbers up against any 30-year-olds and they'll beat them. I'm in better shape than I was when I was 30 years old. So am I in the second half of my life or not? I don't know. I talked with somebody, they told me something very interesting. I used to hate the term midlife,
Yes.
but I don't hate it anymore because they explained it to me. They gave me a different way of looking at it. They said, here's the moment you were born. Here's the moment you're going to die. If you're somewhere in between, you're midlife.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense.
yeah,
I like that.
so I started looking at it that way. Yeah, because it's limited thinking. Our brains believe what we tell it.
Yep.
As Zig Ziglar said, stinking thinking. You know, we're going to believe what we hear. So start telling it good stuff. And that's what you did.
Well, and I
I'm very proud of you
well,
and very impressed by what you did. You got kicked in the teeth and you started smiling, showing your teeth. Kick
yes,
me
I
again.
did. Well,
Yeah.
and I will tell you, we talked about this before we went live. 8 weeks ago, my husband of 42 years passed away suddenly. And I realized at that moment I had a choice. I could put on a black outfit, wear it for 30 days, cry, mourn, grieve, stop living, but I didn't. Because my husband and I talked all the time about life and just living the best that we could on each day. And we had our struggles like everybody does. And I've had people say to me, Karen, you smile, you're working, I said, but I'm living, I'm breathing. And I'm living for myself, my family, my husband, and I'm going to create new memories. Because you know what? Like you just said, Stanley, I'm in midlife. I don't know if that means 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 100. Now, truthfully, I don't want to live 100 more years because everybody else that I know and love will be gone, and I don't want to be the
Mhm.
last one standing. But we don't know. And so we got to make the most of each day. And that begins with our health and our mind. And we can't let people sit there and tell us what we should be thinking or how we should be living our lives.
Nope. No. Just
So,
go
how
do
do
it.
we get to your website?
It
Because you've
is,
got a lot of stuff there
it's
for us.
here, thewayofexcellence.com. Please put that in the show notes.
Absolutely will.
Thewayofexcellence.com. If you go there, it's got three main tabs. The first one, when you go to the page, it's all the videos are there. It starts with a brief introduction to the system, and you just go down, take them in order, 1 through 20. I urge you to do them in order because they build on each other. Do it that way. Each video is 8 to 12 minutes. Watch one a day. That's it. 30 days, you'll learn the whole system.
I love it.
Then if you're interested in weight loss information, if that's your deal, there's a whole tab on there with all kinds of weight loss resources, videos, webinars that I conducted with experts, um, you know, lists, like there's 10 things that are keeping you from losing weight. Too much salt, added salt, added sugar, not enough fiber, you know, things like that. Gives you a lot of information, and this is healthy information. And now I want to tell you, all this stuff is coming from you. So far, Karen has not asked you for any money.
No,
I have not asked you for any money. The people on TV who are selling you weight loss drugs, who are telling you you need weight loss surgery, who are doing all these other things, telling you what their healthy foods are, telling you that diet soda is healthy, things like that. They all want your money. So maybe, just maybe, you might want to listen to people like Karen and me a little bit more because we're putting your interests ahead of our own. It's not that I don't like money. It's not that I don't want people to hire me privately to work with them. I work with people privately. It's that I don't want money to get in the way of the message because
love that.
the message is more important. So that's why everything on my website's free. And then the third tab is all my books. There's a ton of guidebooks on there. Digital download, you can either read them on the website or you can download them and put them on your tablet or your computer. You can read them for free. I urge you to learn the system first and then start reading the books and go through there. It's all there. And if you need to contact me, there's a link at the bottom of every page. Click it. Send me a contact information. If you want to work with me privately, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. If you just have questions or if you just want to say thank you, send me a note and say thank you. I appreciate that.
And, I think that's such a good message because I've been asked over and over again, why do you podcast? Why do you coach? And my answer is, I do it for me, to be honest, because I learn from everybody and I get the information that I need to live a better life. And therefore, I can help others live a better life. We're
That's
all
your
going to
It's your purpose for being here.
That's absolutely, absolutely. Stanley, we're going to have you back on again because you just have truly, truly made my day today. I'm just so excited, and I'm hoping that our listeners go back to your website, go system by system, take it in. Because as you first started, I have to tell you, my mind started wandering, and then you got to about 4 or 5, and it was like, wait a second, I got to take this in. And I know I didn't take it all in. And so I got to go back and read it and listen to it because your system can help us live our best life. It's not necessarily about weight loss. It's not necessarily.
Weight loss is my story.
Yes, exactly.
Not necessarily yours. And these videos, I want to emphasize, they are kid friendly. So if you want to watch them with your kids, watch them with your grandkids, please do so. And the videos they have lots of pictures. They're halfway entertaining. So, the kids might actually want to watch them. So just do that. Just learn the system.
That's what we're going to do. And we're going to share this in the show notes. Thank you, Stanley, for a great conversation. Have a wonderful day and go take a walk now.
I already took the dogs right before we got on here.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.